the answer, Matt. Just so
Yeah.
you know, you are to provide the answer.
No, no.
You're a high-level shooter. I heard you're
So what?
top 16 at nationals.
That doesn't mean nothing.
I mean, it's not
Does it?
nothing. That's kind of an achievement.
I didn't get an award for that.
Well, you don't. That's gone now. There's no stage win medals either. Idiot. All right. Welcome to the Practical Pistol Show, people. My name is Ben. I'm here to answer your shooting questions. On deck today, Mr. Nick.
Hey guys,
Dick, Orange.
welcome to the internet.
Welcome to the internet. Hoppy Cakes.
What's up?
What's up is not much probably for most people. They're bored as
Yeah.
shit. That's why they're listening to this mess.
Are they?
And Kimmy.
안녕하세요.
All right.
Was that English?
English?
No, 안녕하세요. Korean.
Oh.
Okay. We just can't stick to English on this podcast.
Okay, I'll try.
Actually, what's like the dirtiest swear word you could use in Korean?
No, my wife is over there. She probably listens to it. Can't say it.
You can't say it?
No, not in front of my wife.
How bad is it? Is it like C unit bad in English?
It's like the literal translation will be kicking in the joint in a smoother way to say it.
In the joint?
Yeah, like the crouch area.
That's the worst thing you can say in Korean?
Pretty much, I think so.
I think we lost something in the translation.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is not direct translation, of course.
People must take getting kicked in the balls pretty seriously in Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's get to the questions. Do you ever use the prep press method of pulling the trigger? If so, in what situations would you use this technique? I still practice the press and prep technique. Use it on very difficult shots. Is prep press a crutch for me? Should I be able to press the trigger hard and fast regardless of target difficulty? Interesting question. Hopkins, tell him the answer.
So I know this as a different name. It's like the slack out.
Slack out.
But same thing,
what is
right?
slack out?
You're taking the slack out of the trigger before you press it. So you're
Okay.
taking all the movement out of the trigger, the pre-travel, and stopping at the wall and then pressing through, breaking the shot. Is that what prep and press is?
Sure.
Or press
I
and
think
prep?
so.
I think it depends on who you ask. It's one of those things like prep and press, or I've heard flip and press, which I think is a little different. And then people use terms like that. You got to ask them specifically what they mean. I assume this guy means something like that. But yeah.
So I would only use it on like a headshot at 18 yards, but then on the third one, forget to do that and hit finish.
As long as you're not dwelling on it, that's good.
We'll be fine after this.
Yeah. So that's the only time you would use it in a match. So would you say it's a
or
crutch?
like a difficult steel shot, maybe at some huge distance, like in Iowa where we had.
Oh yeah, like 45-yard minis.
Yeah, that was
Fuck
ridiculous.
that. That was gay. So, you would say it's a crutch, normally.
If you're doing it on everything, yeah.
Okay. Kimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Matt. I do something similar that Matt's doing in a little bit different sense. Yes, slack out is the end result, but what I actually think about when I shoot an accurate shot, I would say it's a gradual pull. And my Walther has 5-pound trigger, and the break is very clean. So when I pull with the gradual pull for an accurate shot, my pound on my finger will increase from 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, 4 pound, 5 pound in a slower manner. So in a result, pulling with a 1 pound trigger pull with my finger will eliminate the slack out and reach the wall at around like 2 pounds, and then it will actually break at 5 pounds exactly. But when I'm shooting really close target, hosing stuff, I would just pull with one straight, I would say at least 6 pounds. I didn't measure, but 6 pounds, 7 pounds, something like that. So there is actually no pause before the wall area. And yeah, if he does prep or gradual pull on every single shot, it can be very slow.
Yeah.
But you can do this very fast if you train.
Well, prep and press is, I usually think about it like you prep the trigger, like Matt says, you take the slack out, and then you consciously know you've done that, so that makes a pause. So you kind of press the trigger halfway up to the wall. There's a pause where you consciously recognize you've done that, and then you press the trigger again. And with that conscious break in there, like you can't be really fast with that. You just can't be. So it's not something I tell people to do. It's not something. I do not do it. I either I press the trigger hard and fast, and then as the shots get more and more difficult, I just slow down the press. I slow it down a little bit, but still like pressing it so fast that I can't consciously think about it while I'm doing it. Does that make sense to you, Nick? Yeah. How do you do this?
I don't know. I might phrase it slightly differently. And one other thing here is, depending on how far off the reset you get, you may think about this or phrase it a little differently. My finger, and I know this based on video. My finger really never comes off the trigger, during a string of shots until I'm moving or reloading or something. But to me, this is one of the most difficult things to do correctly under match pressure, and it's one of the, if I'm not practicing very well for a little while, or I don't practice for a week or something, like this is one of the first things that I lose. Okay, so if I'm, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm probably doing what I consider to be a fairly fast press, slash trigger slap on probably 80% of the shots in most matches. If to shoot accurate shots, for me, you have to dial it back, and you have to give a good, solid, conscious, straight, and deliberate press of the trigger while maintaining the sight picture. To me, that's great. It's easy to do in practice. It's easy to do in slow fire. Doing it under match pressure is the trick. So, I do bifurcate it that way, where I think about it differently. I'll identify the shots before the stage where I want to think mentally, hey, I need to lock down everything on this shot, and I need to make this shot.
So if it's, let's say it's a head box, maybe 18 yards away.
Yeah.
Lock that shit down.
Yeah, that stage at Nationals, okay, I executed those two tour pulls very well. I knew it when I took the shots. I didn't take any makeups.
That was just a hypothetical, bro. Like, I don't know.
Should have executed it, and I didn't. So the question says, in what situations would I use this technique? Difficult shots, whatever you personally consider to be a difficult shot. If you have to utilize the amount of time it's going to take you to make the shot. There's nothing that wastes time more than missing shots. So anytime you miss a shot, if you have to take a makeup on paper, you have to make up on steel. 100% of the time you could have been faster if you just executed that shot correctly the first time. So whatever is a difficult shot for you, that's where you have to take the time to lock down and make the shot first time.
Makes sense to me. Okay. Well, I hope this was helpful to the guy.
I think it was good.
All right. Next question. Thanks for the podcast. I enjoy the show and content. My question is where to look before the timer goes off. I've seen high-level shooters looking down at a spot on the ground. I've seen this on El Pres, for example, and some looking at the first target. What stages would dictate either one of these visual starting positions? Are there any other visual starting positions you would recommend? Hopkins, you said you wanted to give the answer for this.
I want to hear the answer. So, just on the up-range start, I don't want to be staring at the dude in the eyes because that looks weird. It gets weird. So I'll, stare at the ground on something like that. Otherwise, I want to be, looking at the first target on that. I had a question for Kim, though, because sometimes he starts, looking at his holster. And I want him to kind of expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, Kimmy, interesting.
Yeah. So Most of the time, I won't like look at stuff. My eyes are open, but I won't look at stuff if that makes sense. But when I'm like completely, when my body is completely relaxed, my I had many accidents and my back is not good and my neck is very stiff. I have disc problems. So when I'm like completely relaxed, my body naturally bends down a little bit, and then my head is towards the ground, towards the floor. So it looks as if I'm actually looking down on the ground, but I'm not actually looking at anything. I'm just zoning out and focusing on the first buzzer, beep, the sound, and also just keep thinking about the path of my right hand to the gun, just trying to get a good grip on the holster. But I may start looking at the gun. For example, at the war shoot, there was a seating start, and you have to pull your gun out, and you have to rack the slide to chamber it. And then in that case, I was actually looking at the gun area, the holster area. So when I actually stand up, I'm not grabbing the gun then standing up. I am gonna be standing up while grabbing the gun. So I wanted to just be sure that my right hand is towards the right direction. But I'm not really like, I experimented on this, starting looking at the target and drawing and shooting, and I started looking down or closing my eyes or my head somewhere else, and then looking at the target, then shoot. The time was the same. For me, just the draw is basically, I don't think about in terms of draw, I think about in terms of grip and then transition from the holster to the target. So for me, draw is actually basically a transition. So the time comes out to be the same, and now I can make a decision if I want to be really comfortable and super relaxed before the buzzer goes off. Do I want to look at the target? I can do both. But most of the time, it happens to be I'm looking on the ground because I'm super, super relaxed.
So
There's no real advantage looking at the target or looking on the ground or closing your eyes. There's no real advantage.
yeah, I mean, I can tell you the answer for me is that I just don't want to be looking at the RO. So on an LPRES, I will not look at the RO. I'll look down. But aside from that, I don't worry about it too much. I like to look at the first thing I got to do, if that makes sense. Like whether it's like grab your gun off a table or run to a spot or the first target you're going to shoot. That's
One
what I
thing
like
I'll
to
do if like you have to like load your gun, I will move my eyes down to like my workspace, what people call it,
Your workspace.
because I'm gonna have to move. Yeah, I'm gonna have to move my
Tactical,
eyes
bro.
down there anyway.
I
So
like
yeah,
it.
I know.
Well, anybody have anything to add to that? I don't think so.
No.
Shit, man. Another bang up job on a podcast, that's for sure.
That's right.
Amazing. All right, listeners, if you have any questions you'd like the answer to, go to bensegger.com, send me your question. We'd love to answer it. Or maybe Matt would just like to hear the answer. I don't know.
Maybe.
Because Kim's going to explain this shit to you. Because that's what he do. It's how they do.